here we go on the Ribelle. Alright guys, similar setup to the SS9, a little bit more lean forward. I'm guessing maybe this maybe there's a riser on the SS9. Oh, gotta push the brake in and then hold the button down. Now we're ready to go. So even though this is the same ride height, or the same seat height, 31.1 inches as the SS9, I do feel like I'm a little lower. The seat dips down. It definitely feels like you're riding more in the bike than you are on the bike than on the SS9. But here we go. So they call this the E-Fighter, electronic street fighter, and yeah. Oh, I like this riding position. So I do ride a 2015 KTM 1290 Super Duke R. Feels very similar to that, which, you know, I might call that bike a naked bike. The Super Duke, you might call it a street fighter. Maybe not. It's definitely naked. This bike feels similar. I think maybe even more of a lean forward. I am 5'6", and my inseam is about 30 inches long. I had to have longish arms for my height. I have about 70-inch arm span, wingspan, whatever you want to call it. But there is a little bit of a lean forward. But what I will say is that even though I'm leaning forward a bit here, I don't feel like I'm reaching for the handlebars, and I don't feel a whole lot of pressure on the wrist. As far as if you're looking at riding this bike for longer distances, especially once you get up to speed here, you get that wind hit you a little bit. Yeah, this feels like a nice riding position. Definitely, I would say if you're looking between the SS9 and the Ribelle, and you're looking for something you can ride for longer, I would probably just say, because the specs are so similar on the two bikes, is the Rebelle's got, or excuse me, the SS9 has a more comfortable seat. This seat is very sport bikey. It's got you lean forward, push towards the tank, very grippy, but it also has that that dip down, so you're nice and seated right here where you need to be to ride this thing aggressively. And that's what we're gonna see if we can do a little bit here on this test ride. A little bit of how my test rides are formatted. We kind of just go with the things that we see. It's a little bit ADD, so I apologize for those of you who like more organization to a ride and a test ride / review video. But I do the best I can because I don't know these ride routes, and I do my homework on the motorcycles themselves, but because I don't know where we're going or have the right route in advance, I just do my best here. So we've got a nice TFT display here. It's not very big. I do think that Energica could make this bigger, make this screen bigger, because although it's very clear, and even when the sun's hitting it right here, I can still see the information that's important, which is my miles per hour, and the tachometer I can still see pretty well too. But at the same time, it could afford to be maybe a little higher contrast, maybe a little brighter, and maybe these are settings that you can change. But at the same time, it would be nice to just have a bigger screen. I think whatever lights you've got going on up here on the top can be integrated into a bigger digital display. That's just my opinion, though. Okay. So I was told that the engine braking is set to the same as what was on the SS9 that I just rode. So what happens is that I barely used either brake in my last test ride. I basically used it to stop fully, but other than that, I was not really on brake at all. Whew, whew. The suspension is definitely more aggressive on this. It's not so reboundy, and you can adjust both the front and the rear suspension on this motorcycle. I'll have suspension specs for you on the screen, but it makes for me feeling like I can get a little more aggressive here on this test ride, which is really nice. Really, it's all going to depend on the rider in front of me, though. So, woo-hoo-hoo. There's a little bit of a dip in the road. I don't even know if maybe you could see it on the ride, but as I was kind of like right in the middle of that turn, I kind of dipped, had to straighten out pretty quick. Not the greatest road, but we really can't open it up because there's no traffic. So back to the display. I got miles per hour tachometer on the left, all digital. I don't know if there's a way to change the screen to make it give a more analog look, but I don't know why you would want to do that on a bike like this. Well, they're really getting out in front of me. You've also got your range, your electric range, your mileage. Again, I'd never use the brake there. Let the engine braking do everything for me. You've got your battery capacity, and right now this battery's at 27%. You got your time, which is at the top, and your outside temperature, air temperature, and then at the bottom you've got more range numbers, how much range you've got left on this trip. This bike says it has about 39 miles left on the range. Your trip meter and your odometer. As far as controls go, on the right you've got we might have to hold off on the controls because we're really getting into this this ride. Woo. Oh, hard to put the butt down when it's so bumpy. I do not recommend keeping your butt down on such a bumpy ride. Oh, that was a big one. Really had to get up off the seat for that one, because that one probably would have hurt. Oh, guys, if you haven't ridden an electric bike, you got to do it. Whether it's one of the big names like Zero, Livewire, or Energica, just give it a whirl, man. If you're a motorcycle rider, I'm gonna guarantee you that you're not gonna regret at least trying it, because it is just loads of fun. All right, so the nice thing too about this engine braking, besides not having to kind of like to ride or not to ride, but to cover the brake and be worried about doing so in a twisty ride like this, is that you're getting range back to the battery. That engine braking is giving you power back to the battery. And while we're talking about the battery, let's talk about the capacity. It's about plus kilowatt hours in this battery. You're going to get about 260 miles of range in the city, 160 of mixed city highway riding, and about 130 miles of pure highway riding. When you go to charge, this battery, the charger has a CCS, which will get to the level 2 fast charging, and a J772, which is the standard, like, oh, excuse me, the J. Can we just say, but let's just take a minute to mention that on the Energica Rebelle, you can go to 0 to 60 in 3 seconds if you've got the RS version, which is going to beef up the chain a little bit. Otherwise, the specs on the RS is pretty much the same, other than the chain. I think the only thing that changes is the onboard firmware is going to make it so you can get a little more aggressive, and you can get under 3 seconds 0 to 60. And that, I can tell you from what we just did there, is exhilarating to say the least. Oh boy. Okay, so let's go back to the charging cable here. The J1772 is just that standard plug, and I'll have pictures for both of those things for you on the screen, as well as the CCS connector. Those two are available for charging on this bike. Liking the sound on this motorcycle too. It's a little, the sound is a little less whiny, and you know, it could just be the actual bikes that we're riding, not necessarily the model sound. But on the SS9, it felt like the sound coming from the bike was a little louder, but that could just be me. Either way, I like the sound from the electric motor on this bike. So let's talk about controls now that we're on a little bit of a slower part of this ride and a little bit tamer and maybe better road conditions too. Oh yeah, man, it's just the nice thing about riding an electric bike is, like, I know that shifting is part of riding, you know? Everyone who's ridden a motorcycle knows how to shift, downshifting, and then, you know, shifting at the right time to get the most fun out of your ride. But when you're riding an electric bike, especially this one with engine braking, you can just focus on the joy of the road and leaning the bike over. It's just something that you're not going to experience on your typical IC engine bike. All right, so let's get to the controls. On the right here we have grip warmers, as well as your cruise control buttons, and then your power on and off. Actually, this is ignition, because to turn the bike off, you actually have to turn the bike off with the key. There is an option for keyless. Was he taking us on a longer ride? I swear we went left last time. No, I think I'm wrong. There is an option for a keyless ride. Woo-hoo! I like to have fun on my rides, and I will laugh, but I gotta say, I don't know that I've laughed more on a ride than I have on this one. Maybe with the Panigale, the V4 that I read years ago. On the left, let's get back to the controls. On the left, just barely basic controls. You got your lights, low and high beams, and what you have also on the left is your blinker, your ride mode button, which is nice and big, right? Because there's not a lot of things to do on an electric bike. And then your horn. Let's test out the horn. Kind of a wimpy horn. Like, I don't even think they would be able to hear that horn, and they're not that much further in front of me. Oh, look at that American flag waving in the foreground. That's a nice America. Woohoo! Oh my goodness. So if we want to go back to the battery, there's really no heat at all coming off of this motorcycle, which on a day like today, where it's like over 90 degrees here in Livermore, California, what's cool about that is you don't have to worry about the extra heat that might be coming off of your engine, that might be coming off of your exhaust. So, like, it's this liquid cooled motor is just doing its job without putting off any extra heat, at least that I can feel. Oh boy. But yeah, I guess since we've got a second here, I love the look of Energica bikes. It's basically the same, except for this front end between the SA 9 and this bike, the Ribelle. Except for this front end, and I'm pretty sure you got risers because you've got less of a lean forward, even though this is the first time I had to use both brakes. Just stop a little fast there, but it works really well. Those people wanted to take a picture of our bikes with their car that they're gotta do for the gram. Yeah, so back to the looks of the bike. I love the look of this bike. You know, I was talking about in the other video, and I'll put a link here to to my test ride of the SS9. The retro look just doesn't seem to, even though it's got a nice LED light, it's got like that halo light on the front, it just feels off to me on a bike that's so futuristic, and everything else about it doesn't feel that way, because you're looking at the same aesthetic as far as the side profile, except for basically the seat and the tail as the SS9. But this bike just, I feel like, because for me, I wouldn't want to be so lean forward like you would be on the Ego, that this would be as aggressive as I'd want to be when you're talking about a bike that has so much range, and because if you put it on the CCS fast charger on a long, like if you're going on a day trip, or maybe on a small road trip with an electric bike, it all becomes possible with a bike that has range like this, 130 miles on the highway. And then we're talking about a 40-minute 10 to 80, I think it's 10 to 80% charge, and that 80% is going to get you another 100 miles. So you got to, you're going to stop for lunch, and then get out a little longer. Maybe find a charger in a place that you can take a break, walk around. Oh, this is the big bump right here. Oh. I was just, oh, that was a big bump. This bike has two higher levels of engine braking. I feel like this right in the middle, I think they said it's on urban mode, is like the perfect amount of engine braking. Because when I completely full stop let off the throttle, it feels like I'm braking. 100% feels like I'm braking, not just like I'm slowing down. It's about as aggressive as like shifting down in the middle of going fast, without the fear of spinning out and losing control of the bike. We've got the dual disc brakes in front. I'm sure this bike could do with just a single disc in front, maybe show off that front wheel a little more. But what I think happens is, because you've got I don't believe that there's you get any regenerative brake, I don't think you get any energy back to the battery when you brake. But because of the engine braking, the regenerative braking, that does send energy back to the battery. You're going to be doing so little actual braking with the front and rear brakes, which actually feel good. You got Brembo brakes, like I said, dual disc in the front, one single disc in the back, and that, because you're doing so little braking, you're not looking at very much maintenance. And that's the other nice, you're not doing very much brake maintenance, brake pad changes, brake fluid, which you've got ABS, electronic ABS, as well as the Bosch ABS on this bike. There's just the beauty of not having all that maintenance. I think they said that there's a fluid change that you got to do for the battery, and I'm guessing it's for the liquid cooling, but that doesn't come to like 18,000 miles. So you're gonna ride this bike for a long time before you ever have to do any as far as like fluid changes go. I might be wrong. You're probably gonna want to do the brake fluid change before that. But again, because you're doing so little braking, I don't know that that's going to be a factor. We got the final drive, chain drive, and like I said, the only difference between I might have said that on the other video, but really the only difference between the Ribelle and the Ribelle RS, which is I guess they're gonna boast it with its better specs, but I don't know that the price change is all that different. But the only difference is the chain. They beefed up the chain a little bit on the Ribelle RS to deal with a little bit more torque. And everything else is done with a firmware update. And so really what that tells me is that really what that tells me is that you're not getting all that, you're not really getting all that much more. So I'm guessing because we're talking about not having that big of a price difference between the RS version and the standard version of the Ribelle, because it's mostly done with a firmware update. Sorry, we just paused there. I don't like talking, especially because you don't have any engine noise. This guy next to me is going to be like, this guy's talking to himself. He's seeing the camera. He knows what I'm doing. At any rate, I'm going to be totally honest. This bike feels so fast and gives you so much horsepower. And again, horsepower numbers to me is kind of, because it only rates it at a little over, I want to say it's like at 107, 110, maybe in the 100 teens horsepower. It's not, it's all relative, because on a bike like this, it feels like you have unlimited. We're talking on my Super Duke, my 1290R in sport mode, we're talking about close to 180 horsepower on that IC engine bike. This bike feels faster than my Super Duke. in sport mode, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But guys, we're coming to the end of this ride. This is the time where I say, if you've got any questions about the Energica Ribelle, or Rebel in English, make sure you leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. If I can't answer them, I will do my best to track that answer down for you. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, please be safe. Be kind to one another. My name is Eric. I'm that one guy. And I am out.